Have you ever walked away from an argument with a woman, and an hour later, you're still replaying it in your head? Not because you're angry, but because you genuinely can't figure out what just happened. You went in with a simple concern. You left apologizing. She was upset. You comforted her. And somehow, you became the bad guy in a story you don't even recognize as yours. If that feels familiar, you're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You might be experiencing one of the most subtle and psychologically damaging dynamics in modern relationships. It's called gaslighting. And today, we're going to talk about how some women use it on men, and the red flags most men miss until it's too late. Let's clear something up first. Gaslighting isn't just a buzzword people throw around when they don't like what they're hearing. It's a real psychological phenomenon, and it doesn't always look how you expect. It's not always shouting. It's not always obvious. In fact, the most effective gaslighting is so subtle, you don't even realize it's happening until you've already started doubting yourself. The term comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into questioning her sanity. He dims the gaslights in their home, then denies it's happening. She sees the change. He tells her she's imagining it. Over time, she stops trusting her own mind. That's the core of gaslighting, making someone distrust their own reality. And here's what almost no one talks about. Gaslighting isn't something only men do. Women can gaslight. Women do gaslight, sometimes maliciously, sometimes unconsciously. But the effect on men is the same: confusion, self-doubt, emotional exhaustion. This video is specifically for men, not because women are the enemy, but because men are rarely given language for emotional manipulation, and even more rarely given permission to admit that a woman hurt them. That changes today. What gaslighting looks like when women do it. Here's the problem with gaslighting from women. It rarely arrives as an obvious attack. There's no dramatic villain moment, no neon sign that says, "I'm manipulating you now." Instead, it shows up as patterns. Small, repeatable patterns that seem almost reasonable in the moment. But over time, they chip away at your confidence, your instincts, and your sense of reality. Let's break down what those patterns actually look like when they come from women. Pattern number 1, minimizing your reality. You bring up something that bothered you. Maybe she flirted with another guy in front of you. Maybe she disrespected you in front of friends. Maybe she crossed a boundary you'd already talked about. And when you bring it up, you hear, "Relax, it wasn't that serious. You're overreacting." Wow, you're really sensitive. Notice what just happened. The issue is no longer what she did. The issue is now you for noticing it. This is minimization, and it trains you, slowly, to stop trusting your emotional reactions. Pattern number 2, emotional flipping. You go into the conversation calm. No yelling, no insults. Just, "Hey, this bothered me." And in seconds, she's crying, or shouting, or shutting down. Now you're not talking about the problem. You're talking about how your feelings made her feel. You started with, "That hurt me." You end at, "I'm sorry I upset you." This is emotional flipping. The spotlight shifts from her behavior to her reaction to your supposed insensitivity. The conversation was hijacked, and you probably didn't even notice when it happened. Pattern number 3, selective memory. You clearly remember what was said. She promised something. She made a comment. She agreed to a boundary. But when you bring it up later, she says, "I never said that." That's not how it happened. You're twisting my words. If she denies it confidently enough, for long enough, you start to wonder if maybe she's right. Maybe you are remembering wrong. Maybe you are being unfair. That's how your grip on reality loosens. Not through violence, through repeated, quiet denial. Pattern number 4. Attacking your perception, not her behavior. The phrases sound familiar. You're overthinking it. You're being paranoid. You always assume the worst. You just have trust issues. These don't address what happened. They attack how you feel about what happened. Over time, you internalize those labels. You start to narrate yourself the same way she does. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I should just let things go. You stop listening to your gut. She doesn't have to silence you. You start silencing yourself. Pattern number 5. Reversing responsibility. You say, when you did that, it hurt me. She says, well, if you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done that. You pushed me to that point. This is actually your fault when you think about it. Your willingness to be fair, to look at your own role, gets used against you. Before you know it, you're defending yourself, apologizing, and reassuring her. The original issue? Gone. The result? You walk away confused and weirdly guilty, even though you were the one who was hurt. Why men miss these red flags with women. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Men are particularly vulnerable to gaslighting from women. Not because men are weak, but because of how most men are raised to deal with women, emotions, and conflict. Let's unpack your blind spots. Blind spot number 1. You assume honesty because you are direct. Most men communicate to exchange information. You say what you mean. You mean what you say. So when a woman says, I'm fine, you assume she's fine. When she says, I never said that, you assume she must be right. You're playing a literal game. She might be playing an emotional one. That doesn't make her evil, but it does mean your default assumption, people say what they mean, can become a weakness around someone who doesn't. Blind spot number 2. You're wired to fix, not challenge. When a woman gets emotional, angry, hurt, crying, your instinct is to fix it. Calm her down, solve the problem, restore peace. That instinct is noble, but in a gaslighting dynamic, it becomes a trap. Because your focus shifts from what actually happened to how do I make her feel better? You'll skip over your own hurt to protect hers. And in that gap, patterns go unchecked. Blind spot number 3. Her emotional intensity makes you doubt your logic. Here's something most men never realize. When a woman is extremely certain and extremely emotional, many men assume they must be wrong. If she's this upset, I must have really messed up. If she's this sure, maybe I did remember wrong. Her emotional intensity feels like proof, and your calmness starts to feel like guilt. Gaslighting thrives in that gap, where emotion overrides logic. Blind spot number 4. No one taught you emotional self-defense. You probably learned how to work hard, how to hustle, how to push through pain. But did anyone teach you how to spot manipulation, how to protect your mental clarity, how to stay grounded when someone twists reality? Probably not. So when a woman does it, especially one you care deeply about, you don't have a framework. You freeze. You question yourself. You fold. And she may not even realize how much power she has over your sense of reality. 7 red flags. She's gaslighting you. Let's move from theory to reality. These are 7 of the clearest signs a woman is gaslighting you. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Red flag number 1. She confidently denies what you both know happened. I never said that. I didn't do that. You're making things up. If she can look you straight in the eye and deny something that clearly happened, that's not a misunderstanding. That's reality distortion. And it's step 1 of gaslighting. Red flag number 2. She attacks your tone instead of your point. You say, when you did that, it made me feel disrespected. She ignores the content and jumps straight to, why are you talking to me like that? You're being aggressive. You sound so cold right now. Your words were measured. Your concern was real. But instead of accountability, the conversation becomes, defend how you said it. This keeps her behavior off limits and keeps you on the defensive. Red flag number 3. Emotional meltdowns shut down every difficult topic. Emotions are human. Crying is human. But if every tough conversation ends with her sobbing, raging, or breaking down, and you always end up backing off, that's not just sensitivity. That's a pattern. A pattern where her emotions are used like a fire alarm. As soon as accountability shows up, beep, everything shuts down. Red flag number 4. Your reactions are constantly pathologized. Whenever you bring up a concern, she doesn't respond to the concern. She diagnoses you. You're insecure. You're jealous. You're damaged from your past. You have issues. Even if there's truth in some of that, notice the pattern. Her behavior is never on the table. Your reaction to it is always the real problem. That's gaslighting. You become the issue. Her behavior disappears. Red flag number 5. She changes the topic the moment she feels cornered. You bring up something specific. When you texted your ex, that crossed a boundary for me. She responds with, what about when you didn't answer my calls last week? What about that thing you did months ago? Suddenly, you're on trial. The original issue is gone. You're no longer talking about her behavior. You're defending yourself in a completely different case. Red flag number 6. Your boundaries are framed as control or abuse. You say, I'm not okay with being yelled at. I don't want you flirting with other guys. I need you to tell me when plans change. Basic boundaries. Her response? You're trying to control me. You're so manipulative. You're emotionally abusive. If calm, reasonable limits are constantly labeled as control, she's not just misunderstanding you. She's training you to have no boundaries at all. Red flag number 7. You're afraid of her reactions. This is the biggest sign of all. If you catch yourself rehearsing what to say over and over, waiting for the right mood to bring something up, avoiding topics because you know they'll explode. You're not just keeping the peace. You're living in emotional fear, and no healthy relationship is built on fear of honesty. Why some women gaslight without realizing it. Here's something important. Not every woman who gaslights wakes up and thinks, who am I going to psychologically destroy today? Some absolutely do it intentionally. But many do it unconsciously. That doesn't make it less harmful, but it changes how you understand it. Origin number 1. She grew up around emotional manipulation. If she grew up in a home where people never apologized, reality was constantly denied, or emotions were used to control others, she may have learned that as normal communication. So when she denies, flips, or deflects, she may genuinely see it as how people argue. Origin number 2. Insecure attachment. Women with anxious or avoidant attachment styles often struggle with conflict. Criticism, no matter how gently delivered, can feel like abandonment, like rejection, like I'm not enough. So instead of hearing, I'm hurt, they hear, you're a bad person. And their emotional system goes into defense. Deny, attack, flip, collapse. Origin number 3. Fragile self-image. Some women have built their entire identity around being the good one, kind, selfless, empathetic. So when you point out behavior that doesn't match that image, it threatens the whole structure. Admitting they were wrong doesn't just mean they made a mistake. It means to them that they are a mistake. So instead of facing that pain, they bend reality until they're the victim again. Origin number 4. Emotional immaturity. Emotional maturity means being able to hear feedback without exploding, hold two truths at once, say, I'm sorry, I see your point. Some women simply don't have those tools yet, so they react like a child would, Deny, blame, tantrum, shut down. Understanding this is not about excusing it. It's about knowing this. You didn't cause it. You can't cure it. And you won't change it by sacrificing your sanity. How her gaslighting changes you over time. Let's talk about what happens if you stay in this dynamic too long. Because the damage isn't always obvious at first. It's slow, it's quiet, and by the time you notice it, a lot of who you are has already been eroded. Effect number 1, chronic self-doubt. You start questioning everything you feel, everything you think, even outside the relationship. Did I overreact? Am I too sensitive? Maybe I really am the problem. Your own mind stops feeling like home. Effect number 2, walking on eggshells. You learn to monitor every word, every expression, every topic. You're not relaxed, you're managing. You scan for her mood. You anticipate her reactions. Your home stops being a place of rest and becomes a place of strategy. Effect number 3, over-apologizing. Sorry becomes your habit, then your reflex, then your identity. You apologize for disagreeing. You apologize for having boundaries. You even apologize for bringing up things that hurt you. You stop asking, is this fair? You only ask, will this upset her? Effect number 4, emotional shutdown. At some point, it becomes too much. Too much confusion, too much tension, too much second guessing. So you numb out. You feel less, you care less. Not because you don't have emotions, but because emotions have become unsafe. Effect number 5, losing yourself. You stop recognizing your own thoughts, your own boundaries, your own needs. You've spent so long adapting to her reactions. You've forgotten what you sound like when you're not being edited. That's the real cost of being gaslit. It's not just that you don't trust her. You stop trusting yourself. How to break this cycle. Now let's talk about what you can actually do. Not to fix her, to protect you. These are tools you can start using immediately. Tool number 1, anchor to facts, not her feelings. When things start to spin, don't chase her emotions. Return to what happened. Here's what I saw. Here's what you said. Here's how it affected me. State it calmly, without labels, without name-calling. If the conversation keeps drifting into your tone, your character, your supposed issues, keep bringing it back. I'm not talking about who either of us are. I'm talking about this specific behavior. Tool number 2, use the accountability test. In any conflict, ask one question. I understand you're upset. Can you also see where your part in this might be? You're not demanding perfection. You're checking for capacity. If she can reflect, yeah, I see that. I could have handled that better. Then there's room to work. If she never can, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance. Tool number 3, stop arguing about the past. Start setting boundaries for the future. You will not win a memory war. She'll deny, twist, reframe, exhaust you. So stop fighting over what happened and start being clear about what happens next. I'm not going to keep debating what was said. What I am saying is, this behavior doesn't work for me going forward. You don't need her agreement to know your own limits. Tool number 4, step out of circular conversations. Gaslighting feeds on endless engagement. If you notice the conversation looping, same accusations, same deflections, zero progress, you're allowed to say, we're going in circles. I'm going to take a break from this. Then actually step away, mentally and physically. Tool number 5, believe the pattern, not the apologies. One bad night is not gaslighting. One messy argument doesn't define a person. But if you see the same pattern for months or years, you're always the one apologizing. You're always doubting yourself. You're always afraid of her reactions. You're not waiting for her to change. You're waiting for yourself to admit what you already know. You don't need permission to leave a dynamic that's destroying you, even if she never admits to what she's doing. Here's what I want you to walk away with. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not too sensitive for noticing when something feels off. You just weren't given the language to describe what was happening to you. Now you have it. Once you can name gaslighting, you can see it. Once you can see it, you can stop internalizing it. You can start trusting your own mind again. If this helped you see your situation more clearly, consider subscribing. We break down psychology, behavior, and the hidden dynamics between men and women, so you can navigate relationships with more clarity and self-respect. There's a lot more to understand, and I'll see you in the next one.